Hey, how are you? My name is John. So I assume that you click on this video because you want to become an EMT or you want to know more about what an EMT do. So let's get to it. First, disclaimer, I was an EMT long ago, like years ago, but I was working there for 2 years before I left that job. So when I was there as an EMT, I was working as 10 hours, 12 hours, 24 hour and 40 hour shift EMT. I trained and got my license through the UCLA EMT program, and I mainly work in the Los Angeles area. I have my experience working with ER patient, nursing home patient, psych patient, dialysis patient, and taking patient from like hospital to hospital or patient from patient home to the hospital for their chemotherapy, MRI treatment, or MRI exam, or any type of exam that they need. And also take patients from the hospital back to their home also. I also run cold and also run did emergency treatment on a freeway before. So in general, that's my general summary of my EMT background. So what's an EMT? Basic EMT are entry-level patient provider who are generally receive about 120 to 150 hours of training under their belt. It usually take about 6 months or so of training to become an EMT. For me, I did my training through UCLA, and it's an intensive training program. So it took me about 3 months of training every single day for like paperwork, skill, and everything. After I finished all that, I have another month of ride along with the 911 crew in Los Angeles before I could get my license. As an EMT, my main job is to monitor patient vitals and ensure that patient is stable as much as possible on the way to the hospital so we could get the patient as quickly as possible to the emergency room for treatment. Depending on your state and city scope of practice, usually EMT can use oxygen, glucose, aspirin, asthma inhaler, and EpiPen. You could use more, but also depend on your state. The general duties of EMT are to respond to patient call, whether it's emergency or non-emergency. I'll get more into the difference between 911 and IFT later, but for now, the general duties as an EMT is that when you get to a call, right, you have to assess the situation, whether it's ALS or BLS call. If it's out of your scope of practice, you call for ALS. So you call your dispatcher, or you have to tell the nurse to call the 911. And if you are 911, then usually there you have a paramedic or fire. Let's just say in case of the situation of BLS call, you do your patient assessment, ABC sample, OPQRST, you get your patient vitals, and then you document everything on your patient run sheet, and then you get your patient report, and you go on to your call. You bring the patient onto your ambulance rig, and you take the patient to the hospital. On the way there, you constantly check your patient vitals. After your assessment and vital check, when you get to the hospital, you can give your patient report to the next healthcare provider, which in this case usually are the nurses, the ER nurse, and then you transfer your care. So that is usually your typical call. When you are not having a patient, you usually clean your rig, you restock the supply on the rig, and you do extra cleaning just in case if there's blood. When it comes to pre-hospital care and ambulance, there are different levels of healthcare provider for emergency medical service, EMS, which are EMT basic or EMT level 1, which is the basic and level care provider. And depending on some state, there are EMT intermediate and advanced EMT, which can assist with IV and give certain medication. After that, you have paramedic. Paramedic are usually called when we have ALS or advanced life support situation, and usually they provide healthcare that advanced that EMT cannot do, which are usually intubation, start IV, give like certain heart medication, start and monitor EKG. I did my infield training and ran along with a 911 company called McCormick in Los Angeles. So shout out to all the McCormick crew out there. After I finished my EMT training and ride along, I got my EMT license, and also I had to go get my driver license for ambulance rig. After I finished that, I got lucky and got in a job as an IFT EMT for this company in Los Angeles. So for this company, it's an IFT company, but it's a sister company with a bigger company that is contract with the hospital in downtown LA. Because the contract that they have, we share calls, and because of that, my calls are very diverse. So for IFT, there are main 4 calls that we do, or I do, when I was in EMT. A quarter of my call is dialysis call, or hemodialysis, a patient that's on kidney failure. Most time, that is the bread and butter for most IFT company, because every day we have a dialysis patient that need to go to dialysis. Now that's a quarter of my call. Another quarter of my call is ER call from nursing home. Most time the nursing home will call you to come take a patient to the ER for night. Most time it's like urgent care stuff, but sometimes it could be a real ER situation. So sometimes I come to a nursing home for ER call, and that ER BLS call turned to ALS call, where we had to call the fire to come to help us out and take the patient to ER. Another quarter of my call is IFT, like really IFT, like inter-facility transport, where we go from one hospital to another hospital, from hospital to the patient home, from patient home to the hospital. And usually for patient to the hospital is usually for an exam, like MRI exam, CT, chemotherapy, some type of treatment, you know. Now that is 3 major one. The last one is the psychiatric call. So usually for psych patient that is on 5150, 5280, I think 5280 for kids or youth. And I have transport patient that have mental health issue that ranging from like really young, like 6 or 7 years old, to someone that's like in their elderly years. So there's a wide range of patient. But the one that really breaks my heart is when I transport a kid, you know, especially with the mental health issue. So psych call are tough, because with most times the psych call could be patient who are DTS, danger to self. Their patient is DTO, danger to other people, danger to other, and that GS are gravely disabled. You rarely see GS, mostly it's DTS and DTO. For those cases, you have to be very careful, because DTS mostly suicidal. DTO could be they either on drug or they have a severe mental problem that could be very aggressive or violent. So for my hospital policy, every time a patient is on a hold or 5150, we have to restrain the patient on the gurney for transport. Because in the past, there are cases where patient that's not restrained, that's on a hold, patient jump out the ambulance during the transport ride on the freeway, and patient kill themselves on the ride to the hospital. So that's one reason why I think most companies nowadays, there's a policy where patient is restrained if the patient is on a 5150 or if a patient on the hold. So what's the difference between 911 and IFT EMT? So let's be more specific. For 911 EMT, right, in California and Los Angeles specifically, when you call 911 and for an ambulance, usually a crew or fire truck will come to your house or to any place that you call 911 from. And usually on that fire truck, there's a paramedic and their own EMT. But also tag along with that fire team is private companies who are contract out with the city for 911 contract. From there, depending on the situation, If it's advanced life support or ALS, the fire crew usually take the over and take the patient to the hospital or to the ER. Sometimes based on the severe situation, the patient will be transported using the EMT ambulance, the contract EMT ambulance, but with a tag along from a paramedic from a fire crew. If the situation is downgraded to a BLS, the fire crew usually make the judgment call, and either they will leave the patient with the contract EMT crew, and for them to take the patient without any supervision from the paramedic to the emergency by themselves. Now, back when I was in training, we respond to a patient fall, right? The fire crew already got there by the time we get there, and they did all the assessment, EKG, everything, and they downgrade the call to BLS. So we just took the patient without the fire crew or any paramedic tag along with us. And everything was fine with our assessment, our vitals, and we took the patient to the emergency, and the nurse already got a call ahead of time that, hey, it's a BLS call, it's not LS. 911 EMT can be like what you see on TV show, gunshot wound, GSW, motor trauma, spinal percussion, heart attack, high fever, sepsis, many more emergency situations that you can think of as a 911 call. It can be intense and it can be mentally draining. I have friends who work for a 911 company. I have friends who are a fireman who is in the LA fire department. So it's a quick pace situation with a constant changing environment that put you on the spot. So if you want to look into 911 and you want to be like, hey, I need to do this, this, and this, then maybe that's a place for you. But just let you know ahead of time, in order to get to a 911 contract company, you have to know someone there, or you have to have a lot of experience before they get into a 911. So what about ER technician? When I was working at my trauma hospital in OC, what I noticed about ER tech in my hospital is that most of the time they help out with the BLS stuff for the nurses, and most of the time I think they do EKG. And when a patient come in, most of the time they do EKG for the nurses, give the nurse the EKG paper, and then just handle all the BLS stuff, restock supply. But yeah, that's pretty much the general gist of it. Anything like bandage or wound treatment, you get the BLS taken care of, and the EKG. In order to become ER tech in a hospital, most time you need experience as either 911 or IFT, EMT, and most time you also need to know someone in the hospital too. I mean, you don't need to know someone in the hospital to get a job as ER tech, but most of the time you enter through as either per diem or part-time, unless you get lucky and there's a full-time opening. But most time the full-time opening nowadays, they prefer hire paramedic or people who have been working with 911 crew for a long time. Now, before I end this video, I do want to bring up an important fact about being an EMT. Just like any job out there, there's a pro and con to everything. Same with EMT. Yes, it is rewarding and it's a really good job in the healthcare, especially when you want as an entry-level job to a healthcare field. But remember this though, this job comes with a high level of stress and mental drain because you're always constant on an emergency call with a different patient, different call every single day. And the patient are usually in pain and confused. So most time the patient can be really mean and rude to you. And as a healthcare provider, you have to be caring and take care of patient, no matter how rude or mean they are to you. The patient can become aggressive and violent to you also. So you have to make sure there's a boundary. They have respect the patient right. Like every EMT call, it could be very traumatic. I have a friend and coworker who respond to car accident or emergency scene where there's blood everywhere, limb missing, amputated limb. I have seen a patient who have a knife in the chest, and I've seen brought patient in with GSW, multiple collision. So yeah, you have to be ready for that. Also, there's a high danger risk of being injured on the job also, because like I say, a quarter of my job involved with psychiatric patient, or there's a DTS, DTO patient, like danger to self and danger to other. So most of those patients are on 5150 or 5250 hold. Yeah. So when they are on hold, I mean, you have to restrain the patient, but still, like, it could be a violent. So always make sure you have your PPE, your glove, your mask, your protection on. I have taken care of patients who have hepatitis A, B, C, the flu, sepsis, MRSA, C. diff, HIV patient, possible airborne infection, tuberculosis, and many more. As a final thought, just make sure to do your patient assessment thoroughly, continuous every 15 minute vital check, know your ABC, OPQ, RST, sample, and always remember to check monitor patient vitals. I hope you learned something new about EMT from this video. I will make more videos about EMT in the future. If you like this video, give me a thumb up or click the red subscribe button down below. On this channel, I talk about my experiences in healthcare, school education, mental health, finance, and self-development. Okay, I hope you have a good day. Stay safe, be strong, believe in yourself, and love yourself. Okay, bye.